Hi there, warm welcome. You're watching Blueprint Exclusive and I'm Meghna Deka. Well, today a wave of horror, anger and anguish has washed across West London. This was after a 15-year-old Sikh girl who was allegedly snatched from the streets, imprisoned in a suburban apartment in London and subjected to a depraved and organized crime of gang rape. This is the dark reality of UK's grooming gang, a pattern of organized system of child gang rapes which are happening at a mass scale. In this case, the teenage girl, nearly 15 years old, she was allegedly held captive for days in a property which was allegedly owned by a 34-year-old man of Pakistani origin. This girl allegedly was forced to endure a systematic cycle of sexual violence at the hands of a group of men over multiple days in this house where she was locked up in. Allegedly of Pakistani origin, this man is the one who had first lured her into the trap of the grooming gang. A brutal ordeal that finally ignited a firestorm of community protests, of a community rising up and saying enough is enough. Despite a police complaint, the police did nothing. This led to 200 Sikhs who were locals of West London to take to the streets. You can see them on your screens. They took to the streets because they decided to take matters in their own hands, saying enough is enough. First, let's get you the facts of the case. This is what is being reported in UK media, that the victim was merely 15 years old, 15-year-old Sikh girl who was living in London with her family. She was allegedly lured by a middle-aged Pakistani man. He's believed to be roughly 34 years of age. What did he do? The charges against him is that he first lured her into a romantic relationship with him, then kidnapped her, locked her up in his apartment. Then she was allegedly subjected to gang rape by as many as 5 to 6 other men. The victim was then threatened into silence. A police complaint was filed. However, the police did nothing. There was no action by the police. Then finally what happened? It was the rescue. The rescue when 200 of the locals, mostly they were predominantly Sikhs, they stormed this house, this apartment complex where she was allegedly being kept, and they managed to rescue her. You can see the visuals on your screens as well. The authorities say that there were about 6 perpetrators who were involved in this organized crime. It is being described as a grooming gang that exploited the teenager through deception and coercion. News of this assault spread widely, especially across social media. This is what allegedly prompted members of the local Sikh community to stage a protest outside the accused residence. Then, as you can see, as many as 200, there are some estimates which are saying 300, but you can see hundreds of people come out, gathered on the streets, standing outside the accused house, demanding justice and confronting the police officers who were assigned to protect this property because there was so many people standing outside protesting. These videos that you can see on your screens show how crowds started chanting and clashing with the authorities. Many say that this was a reflection of the widespread frustration over the perceived failures in addressing such crimes by the police and the political dispensation. Then the protesters entered the apartment complex. You can see them, how they demanded this teenager be returned to them. You can see them knocking on the door. Then they started issuing threats saying that the girl must be released. And finally, you can see on your screens, the teenager was eventually rescued through these community protests, with the community intervening. You can see this young girl being rushed out and then put into an ambulance. According to the protesters, during the questioning, this girl told them that a Pakistani man had kidnapped her, taken her to his flat, where she was allegedly gang raped. When she tried to free herself from the accused, she was locked inside a room. Watch how the police in action led to action by the locals against what is being alleged to be a Pakistani grooming gang, in effect and shamelessly running in the city of London itself. Watch what happened. For example, you had the Rochdale gang. The verdict came out in 2012. You had the Pakistani origin convicts who were convicted in this case. We are going to keep the names there on your screens. You have the names there. But what were the crimes that they were allegedly committing? Well, as per the courts, these are courts' orders and verdicts. The crimes that they committed was that many of the girls that they were exploiting were under the age of 13. That these girls were raped viciously and repeatedly. That they were threatened that they are going to be killed, and then they were forced into prostitution. It was so heinous that as per the judges, they said baseball were inserted into the little girls. They were burned with cigarette butts as well. It was sadistic, to say the least. There was yet another one. You had the Rotherham gang verdict also. This gang allegedly operated between 1997 and 2013. Most of them were of Pakistani origins as well. You have the names of the convicts there on your screens. These are convicts, not the accused. We are pointing it out again. What were their crimes? Well, several of them, and apparently their victims run into hundreds of them, were being indoctrinated. They were being caught at the age of 11 years. And then they were lured, they were coerced. They were passed around. That's what the court says. They were passed around. And there were multiple abusers of children as young as 11 years old. How were they controlling them? With alcohol and drugs, which were used to exploit these children. Then there was the Derby grooming gang of 2010, mostly again of Pakistani origin. You have the names of the convicts there on your screens as well. What are their crimes? They specifically singled out and targeted minor girls who were then threatened, exploited. There was systematic grooming and repeated rape of these minor girls. And now, the unfortunate big question. Who's giving them this free hand? Who's allowing grooming gangs to function with such great impunity in United Kingdom, in its very capital, in London, as well as the charges now appear, where it refers to convicts as none other than Asian gangs? Yes, I am talking about the Prime Minister of United Kingdom, Keir Starmer. He has been accused of allowing these gangs to function with impunity, because till date, he has referred to them as Asian grooming gangs, leading to a lot of Asian community up in arms, saying that do not malign our entire community. It is predominantly one country that these convictions have been coming in, that is that of Pakistan, but he's still shying away from naming Pakistan, perhaps with an eye on the big voter base. Claims are being weaponized by the far left, is what he had said. He had also said that this is misinformation and lies which are being spread, that they are not people, anyone who's raising their voice are not interested in victims but themselves, that this rhetoric risks intimidation and violence. This is what the Prime Minister of United Kingdom had to say when he was asked about it. Let me go across to our panelists. Today joining us on the show, we have Kushal Mehra, author and a broadcaster, who's joining us live from Vancouver. We also have Harman Singh Kapoor, who's joining us, an anti-Khalistan activist. He's an activist who's working in the social field as well. He lives in London, and Harman Singh Kapoor, it's important for you to weigh in because you live in this very city, and this is just one city. We're not talking about just one of these cases, but several others which have come up. There have been convictions on this case, but why is the Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying that it is all an exaggeration, his exact words, and it is hurtful to even read it. It says that this is misinformation, lies being spread, and those people who are vocal about it are only interested in themselves, not the victims. Why?
First of all, to India, Jai Shri Ram. Our Prime Minister and the UK government, they are implicit properly with these grooming gangs. They're trying to hide this from the public from last 30 years that is happening. But recently it's coming out again and again. And the cases you just told about, Crochdale, Derby, they're only few. They're the tip of the iceberg. There are thousands of more Pakistani grooming gangs. Not Asian grooming gangs, Pakistani grooming gangs. You hardly see any Hindu, Sikh, or Christian from Asia involved in grooming gangs. Maybe 1%. But it's not about that police will be called racist or government will be called racist if they go against these grooming gangs. No, these are their vote banks. They don't want to upset their vote banks because if they go against them, they will lose majority of demographically constituencies in UK. And they cannot afford to do that. And they are doing it from a long time. Called it Labour government, called it Conservative government. They all shut their eyes and let this keep happening. In London, there are thousands of grooming gangs. It's happening. But our mayor, Mr. Sadiq Khan, he always say there is no grooming gang in London. It's peaceful, no rapes, nothing. And this came day before yesterday, this Sikh girl, she was groomed and raped, allegedly, by a Pakistani man. I make some facts right. Police was called by that Pakistani groomer, not by the protesters. Yes. These protesters, they went to the home of this groomer and asked him to give the girl back. But they even speak to girl. Girl refused to come out. Girl told them she's fine with that man. She was 16. The 16 is the age in UK.
A minor.
If girl consent or any is a consent. 16 is a age of consent for a sexual things. So the girl says that I am fine with this man. And they keep on threatening that guy. Yes, she was groomed, but that need to be proved. Police is Police is not arrested that man. That man is walking free on the streets because they have to prove that man groomed that girl. They have to prove it. And it will take 10 or 20 years to prove that. It will not be proved because that man is from the special community that is saved by the government.
In fact, that is one of the problems. So, Kushal Mehra, let me bring you in as well, because we're not just talking about this one specific case. It's about a systemic syndicate, if we can call it that, which seems to be running across the length and the breadth. But the political will has been missing. Time and again, not just the Prime Minister, Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London himself has been named. Questions have been asked because, after all, he belongs to a Pakistani descent as well. Is this the price of appeasement?
Well, good evening, Meghna, and good evening to everyone else. It's a problem. Identity politics does eventually, go down to this road, and unfortunately, in civilized societies, this should not be the way things go down, but it is where we are. And identity politics has particularly engulfed the Western left-wing landscape. And unfortunately, as a response to that, even the right wing in the West is deeply involved in identity politics now. And we see a racist backlash coming from the right in the West too. The long story short, the solution to this lies, in my view, is the Western world actually has to overhaul its legal system. A lot of these crimes, in fact, even in my studies in Canada, of how, a lot of the Khalistani networks also used to, use these immigration loopholes and the bail laws, which are very lax in the Western world. I don't think these guys are actually prepared for the kind of misuse a certain group of people are prepared to do. And their software is not getting updated.
But Kushal, are they in denial as well? It's not just about not waking up in time. Are they in denial? That,
no,
yes,
I don't think so.
There is a
denial.
crisis which is there.
I actually agree with Harman. I think it's willful. Look at it like this, Meghna. If I have to ask for your vote, if I'm a politician, right? Let's create a hypothetical here. If I'm a politician and I have to go to Meghna as an individual and convince Meghna based on my policies that please Meghna vote for me, it's a much tougher job. And if I play the group identity card, it's much easier, right? If I go and say XYZ group, it's just easier politically. It's easier from a messaging perspective. It just makes my life easier as a person who's into politics. The problem is the downside effects of that are so horrifying that societies are getting fractured. And believe me, and Meghna, I just want to add this point. You know what's very peculiar about this entire situation? None of the Khalistani aligned MPs, whether in England, whether in Canada, whether in Australia, whether in America, none of them have issued a condemnation for this. Notice, it's a very interesting thing. It's always, an average person like Harman or me as a Punjabi. I'm a Punjabi. Harman is a Punjabi. It's us who are going on talking about it. But look at the public representatives who should be representing the Punjabis or the Sikh community. They don't talk about it. I wonder why. Why don't they talk about it? But it's an average Sikh like Harman or those 200, 300 people who ran towards the house because the cops were not listening. If you have caucuses representing you in Canada, in the United Kingdom, what the hell are those caucuses doing? That's a question nobody wants to ask.
Well, at the end of it, the job of an elected government is to ensure safety, security, to save the children. Some of them in this case as young as 11 years old, save them from the systemic exploitation and the child gang rape gangs, which seem to be predominantly running without any shackles across United Kingdom. There are people like Kushal Mehra calling them out. There are people like Harman Singh Kapoor who are living it daily and fighting against it. But the question is, who's allowing them? And how long can the Starmer government remain in such denial? We hope and really pray that at the end of it, justice is going to be done, because at the end of it, it must be about parity of rights, because everyone's vote, if it really comes down to it, is the same. It should not be swayed by a community or a faith. Without a short break, don't go anywhere.